Hi everyone! Last time I mentioned that I was going to do a video on the 3 different ways that you can publish your TTRPG. And today, I'm going to deep dive into each and every one of those ways that I've found. So just a quick disclaimer, these are the 3 ways that I've found in the TTRPG, blah 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 blah, TTRPG, the TTRPG industry. So this will exclude things like publishing on Amazon or going to Random House to sell your TTRPG idea. These are completely different from what we're going to be talking about today. What we're going to be focusing on today is very specific to the things that I've found in the TTRPG industry. And those 3 ways are self-publishing, co-publishing, or selling it off to a publisher, or licensing it, either way. So last time I mentioned that you could go onto Itch or you can go onto DriveThruRPG and publish your digital product there, but you can also create zines, you can also print stuff out at a copy shop and staple things together and put it into a bag and, sell it at a convention or sell it online. You can also work with other people, you can contract other people out to do writing for you, you can contract people to do artwork for you, and that's all dependent on the sphere of the project itself, like how large is it going to be. And I think that sometimes when we talk about making games, we have a lot of blanket statements in terms of when it comes to collaboration or when it comes to doing things yourself. And I think that that's fine if you're going to go for a smaller project that, doesn't require a lot of lore or doesn't require a lot of world building. But if you're working on something that actually has a lot of history, a lot of real world history, has a lot of stuff that goes into it, it's always good to invite on more collaborators. And that's sort of baked into the project itself, right? Having that idea of scope, having that idea of like, how big is this thing going to be? Because if this is something that's going to have a lot of real world history, for example, then it's a good idea to have a historian or have, someone who is from a specific culture or background or who knows like a lot about the thing that you want to talk about in your game. That's where sensitivity consultants come in, that's where cultural consultants come in, that's where like a lot of these people that will make your game even better come in. And if you're talking about all of these roles, if you're thinking about making something that's like, going to take on a lot, that's going to be a bigger project. If you're thinking that this project that you're going to be working on is going to be smaller, it's probably not going to have a lot of history to it. Say, for example, you're making a game about working in an office with unicorns or something, and it's not going to be anything that's too heavy, then you probably don't need a sensitivity consultant, you probably don't need a cultural consultant if it's going to be like a 1-pager or 2-pager RPG. It's probably still a good idea to send it out to your friends to take a look at, so that way if they see something that's a little off, they'll be able to be like, oh okay, like maybe fix this part, maybe rearrange this part a little bit. But I think if it's going to be a smaller project where you're going to do the graphic design, you're going to do the art, the layout, all of that, and it's going to not take on any heavy topics, then I think that's totally fine if you want to do this all yourself. Like, that's totally possible. Like a larger project, I'm thinking of like, different roles. You have like artists, you have illustrators, you have to pay them well, right? You have to, make sure that everyone is happy with the amount that they're getting. And you also have to bring on, sensitivity consultants and, all this other stuff if you need to for this project, versus like a smaller thing that you might not have to, think about all the rules for. So keeping all of that in mind, there are pros and cons to self-publishing. The pros are obviously, you're going to keep most of your profits, if there are any profits left. And the project is yours. You own it. You are going to be, 100% an owner of this thing that you're making. And now for the cons. So I would say that the cons vary dependent on the scale of the project itself. So if you're doing a smaller project, then you probably don't have to do a lot of project management. You're just focusing on the one thing that you're putting out there, and you don't have to worry about paying people. You don't have to worry about dealing with manufacturing. Maybe it's just going to be run in a copy shop or sent out digitally. Whereas if you're working with a project team, you are wearing a lot of hats. So you're doing project management, you are doing fulfillment, you are doing manufacturing. I did those things the wrong way. So manufacturing first and then fulfillment. And you're also going to be writing and designing and making sure that other writers, if you're inviting them on to co-write or co-design or collaborate, that they know what your vision is. And sometimes you might butt heads with other people who are working on the team. Self-publishing also requires a lot of resources if you're going for a larger scale project. You also have to think about marketing. Do I have a marketing plan? Do I have money for marketing? Do I have money for the graphics that I'm about to make? Maybe I'm doing my own graphics, and that's something that you have to think about. Like, obviously, self-publishing on a larger scale is going to be a lot of work. And you just sort of have to balance out to see, like, is this worth it for me to make? And if it is, then be prepared for all of the work that's going to come your way. The second type of publishing that we're going to talk about is co-publishing, and co-publishing is usually done with another publisher. So you're doing 50% of the work, they're doing 50% of the work. So what that might look like is maybe you're doing all the project management, you are doing all the writing, development, you're, outsourcing all the artists, you are doing the art direction, you are doing all this stuff, and the publisher, the co-publisher, they are going to be taking care of manufacturing and fulfillment, so you don't have to worry about all of that, because manufacturing and fulfillment, that's a lot of work, and warehousing and all this other stuff that you have to think about. Like, it is a lot of work. So when we're thinking about pros, the pros of co-publishing are definitely that you are not taking all of the work, you're not taking on all of the risk, you're not taking on all of that stuff, and you're only going to be using 50% of your resources, time included, because time is a valuable resource, with this publisher. So that way you're splitting up the work, you're splitting up the time, and you're splitting up maybe even the money as well. In terms of cons, I would say the biggest one is that if you don't have these roles and responsibilities set up beforehand, if you don't have weekly check-ins, if you don't have monthly check-ins maybe, then those roles and responsibilities might start blurring. And the reason why I think these weekly check-ins or these monthly check-ins are important is because I think it keeps both of you accountable, so that way you're not taking more of the work, they're not taking more of the work than they had bargained for, and you're all getting something out of it at the very end that you're both happy with. And finally, selling your game or licensing it off to a publisher. Now, working with a publisher, sort of like self-publishing, takes on many different forms. So if you're a contractor, you're probably selling your project off to a publisher, and that means that they own the rights, they own the game, they have full ownership of it. And I know it sounds really scary, but in some situations it's actually really good, because they would probably offer you a higher percentage or a higher rate or a flat fee for the game that you've just sold to them. And especially with a flat fee, you're getting money up front, and that way you don't have to worry about royalties, like are they going to pay you on time, that kind of thing. But again, this is dependent on how much they're offering you, and so definitely take a look at the contracts, definitely negotiate, take a look at everything that you have in front of you. If you're licensing it off to a publisher, usually you would get an advance. Sometimes you don't. It depends on the contract again, but you would definitely get royalties from the project. And something you should take a look at as well in the contract is after 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years even, the contract will expire and the rights to the game, the ownership of the game, will go back to you. Definitely make sure that you're reading the contracts before you start signing anything, because I have definitely made a lot of mistakes in my past where I just was signing stuff and not really reading anything. So I'm learning too. So when it comes to pros of selling or licensing your stuff off to a publisher, they're doing a majority of the work. So that's it right there. You're just like selling it off or you're licensing it off, and they're going to take care of the marketing, the planning, the project management, the distribution, the fulfillment, and all you probably have to take care of is the writing, the development, maybe a little bit. Sometimes guest developers will be added onto the project team, so even then you don't have to do as much work. In terms of cons with doing this kind of deal, obviously if you're selling it to a publisher, then they own the game, they can do whatever they want with it. But if you are licensing it off, then you might be able to have some leeway in terms of, this is what I want for my game, this is not what I want for my game. You still have a say in that. Another con is that you might not have a lot of control over your game. So if it's a lot of people working on the same project, then you might not see a lot of stuff eye to eye with other people. But again, this is dependent on the project team, it's dependent on the publisher. Not all publishers are out to get you. Some of them are very cool, very nice people, and they are willing and open to negotiate, to talk with you, and to work things out. So I would say that the entire lifespan of the project isn't just making sure that the thing gets made, it's also making sure that the thing gets made and sent out to people, and that it's going to be sold and you're going to make your money back and you're hopefully going to make even more money so that you don't just break even. You do, make some money out of this thing that you're going to make. I hope all of this has been insightful for you and it's been helpful to see what it looks like behind the scenes with publishing and signing contracts and, doing all the fun stuff that I personally am terrified of doing. If you thought this video was helpful, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos on creating TTRPGs, what it looks like behind the scenes, my own creative journey. Maybe that's helpful for you, so definitely check it out. And thank you so much for watching. Bye everyone.